Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So the footage you're about to watch is going to be around 9 kills in about 4 minutes, using what I consider now, in my opinion, the best Legend Apex Legends. Now, doesn't mean I'm not still a Wattson main. I love Wattson. But let me highlight some of this gameplay you're going to see. So the first elimination was pretty easy. You know, you hot drop with your team, you get your first kill. What's really great also is that the PK is really strong burst damage. I have a really strong loadout with the R301 and the Peacekeeper. Peacekeeper is your burst damage close range. I will pause this, so this video is going to be longer than 4 minutes. I apologize. But also, tomorrow, I'm going to post a guide on the Peacekeeper. We're going to talk about how you get more consistent shots with the Peacekeeper. So if you like this video, be sure to stay tuned for that. So as you can tell, Horizon has a lot of mobility potential in getting in and out of encounters, which really helps her, especially with her Q and keeping mobile and getting into a fight. What you always want to do when you're trying to clutch out 1v3s, 1v2s, you know, whatever it is, you want to make sure to isolate enemies. You want to always go for 1v1s best you can, and you always want to go for armor swaps pretty much immediately. You need those armor swaps to keep yourself into the encounter, and also as the fight prolongs, I make this mistake later, but also to highlight to make sure you keep track of armors that you've already switched to. So I did hear a team that was fighting up top, so I decided to rotate up top, which helps me get the additional knock there, and then I did a nice target switch and did a good entry level amount of damage. So at this point, because they're going to pretty much pin me down, I decided to drop, which almost got me eliminated, but I stuck with it and I did manage to clutch it out. The biggest thing also does play knockdown shields. Knockdown shields are very, very important. If you want a guide for that, let me know as well. Can definitely do that. So now we are actually, as you've been watching, this is already 7 eliminations in. If I kept up the momentum, I definitely could have gotten more a lot quicker, but you definitely saw a lot of quick work. And again, it's just isolating opponents. If you see both of them pushing, and I'm going to highlight, this is going to be really big in a moment when you see them here. So I overthrew the Thermite. I meant to throw it a little closer. For some reason, I thought they were going to eliminate my teammate, but they didn't. So let's pause this right here. You see here? What they do, they completely split, which is perfect information. They did exactly what I would ideally want them to do. The Wraith is going to the right. The Bloodhound is going over to the left. So I know this information. I decide to full send the Bloodhound because I have a 1v1 encounter. Now, what I should have done here, but I also kind of panicked because the Wraith was running in. I could have either finished the Bloodhound to get a nice swap, but I guess my thought process kind of worked out because I managed to survive. Now, I kind of got a little lucky. Honestly, the Wraith should have kept up. This is where you use your mobility and your movement to stay as active in the encounter as possible. This is also a reminder because I switched and I forgot I already armor swapped to that armor. So this is a big moment here. Juking the Wraith here. So let's rewind this and talk about this. You need to use your movement to your best of your ability when you're moving around. Whether it's a wall bounce, whether it's using tap strafes, because they keep you sharp in your angles, and it's why I was able to get out. So I tap strafe sharp around this angle initially, which helps me there. But it really helps you get around from the Wraith. So if we take this slow here, I decide to juke them because I know I can tap strafe and go around them, which I did, and it manages to throw them off, and I went for the armor swap there. Could have gone for the banner. I should have. I made a mistake, and I throw my ult and my Q down here to go for a full reset. I know the Wraith won't be able to chase me whenever I go up, so I have the ability to reposition and outplay this scenario. My goal is to make sure the Wraith makes a mistake. Now, this is a mistake on my part because the Wraith does decide to actually go for the res, and I couldn't hear it because of my ultimate. But now I need to reset and try to go for a clean 1v1 on both of these opponents, if I can. This is where burst damage is fantastic. Wingman, Peacekeeper. Sometimes tracking weapons aren't ideal, but I'm trying to look for the isolated fight here. So I'm waiting for one of them to make a mistake. Don't get too aggressive. Sometimes if you get too aggressive, that's where your mistake comes in. And I see them, this is where I get the perfect isolated fight, excuse me, and I managed to do a lot of damage to the Bloodhound. I might as well push the Wraith at this point because I know the other one is probably healing. I had to reload here, and that tap strafe there, that movement is also what saved me the encounter, and I clutch it out for the dub there. So let's cover this again of why this works, and also making sure you have high ground. So even though I had the full reset here, being able to know that they're isolated, coming around the corner, you have to make a bold move. You have to make a decision. So the decision here, and you'll see this is why I need to do Peacekeeper guide, is I do land the shot and it only does 37. This is a downside with the Peacekeeper. It all has to do with lag and where you direct your shots. And we'll talk about this in the guide tomorrow when we're covering this, because I want you guys to really land your shots. And I spent hours and hours and hours trying to master the PK, but at least hopefully the advice will help you guys improve as well. So in this scenario, again, I know that the Bloodhound is low, so if they decide to go for a fight, I will prioritize the Bloodhound in that encounter. So if I keep going, I decide to full send this Wraith. So the important thing with full sending this, and I run out of ammo, the best thing to do is tap, strafe, and move around, kind of do a bit of a bunny hop to kind of isolate, and then I wait best I can for this opportunity. So the Bloodhound decides to push, and the patience works out in that moment. I didn't necessarily dive around the corner, but because I was patient and I waited, you don't necessarily always have to have fancy movement to clutch out. It essentially wins the fight. Now, this is why I still believe that Horizon is a fantastic legend. I feel like she's really opened up my potential in terms of being able to outplay opponents to a very high degree. I could still do this as Wattson, but the probability of me doing it as Horizon to fully isolate fights definitely helps, especially when you're flying up and taking height and when you're trying to bait an opponent to take your tactical. It's another little tactic I forgot to kind of mention in the guide. It's a great way to get opponents to push you, and it's a great way to kind of reset. I think Wattson is pretty much why I have become a pretty, I guess, decent Horizon, is because I know in the scenarios where it feels strong and where it feels weak to use her abilities. It's whenever I felt stuck as a Wattson, then I maximized on that potential. And there's, like we were talking about earlier, the bait. When you have somebody go for the bait and you know that you cannot play them, especially if you have more time in Horizon, most people who take the gravity lifts do not have the experience on her gravity lift. You need somebody else who has the experience to be able to counter Horizon. Most people always feel very overwhelmed by her gravity lift, and because of that extra movement, especially if you're a controller, if you're using low sense, can definitely be overwhelming. But again, play those res shields, play patiently, go for the armor swaps immediately. You'll see this a lot whenever you're watching Asu, when you're watching Timmy, when you're watching any 1v3, is that quick reset off of a box is going to get you right back and healed faster than anything you can possibly think of. And I can definitely do a guide on this subject. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you. Sorry if I repeat anything here. Just was really pumped and really excited to share this gameplay with you. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow on the Peacekeeper guide, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.